What are the stories of people who are homeless here in Chattanooga? Chattown Chatta, Our Homeless, is a collection of interviews with some of those people. The book version, edited by Mark Anderson, contains 21 interviews, transcribed from 3.5 hours of video, while the documentary film runs 58 minutes. This weekend, the film will be screened on Saturday at 2 p.m. at the downtown Chattanooga Public Library and on Sunday at 3 p.m. at Barking Legs Theater, followed by panel discussions moderated by Mark. I spoke with him about the book earlier this year. Mark, thanks for joining us.
So great to be here again.
What inspired you to write this book, to conduct these interviews that led to this book?
What really led to it, in my neighborhood, I saw a fellow riding around on his bike with one leg. He was able to pedal with one leg and had his crutches across the handlebar, and I was fascinated by him. It looked very interesting. But then, a few days later, I noticed that he was coming and going from the vacant building next to my apartment building. So I realized he was homeless and he was living in that building. And then I just felt like I needed to meet him and ask what his story is. And when I did, the writer in me said, well, I should record this. And if I'm interested, maybe other people would want to hear his story too.
And there are so many stories in this book, each unique, but also some common threads.
Common threads. A lot of it, I was focused on the presumption that everyone that's homeless is a drug addict. And the common thread is that how many are not drug addicts or substance abusers of any kind. I found there was a diversity in race, about 50-50, black and white. The people that did have substance problems were honest about that, because I asked them, what led to your homelessness? And someone would say drugs and alcohol right up front and just so honest about it. Others would say, no, I haven't drunk in 29 years. A number of them were physically disabled. 2 were mentally disabled to some degree. They should just be on SSI and living in housing somewhere. But it was so sad to see their situations.
How difficult was it for you at times to approach some of these people, to get some of these people to open up to you?
Most of the time, I just found people randomly along the street. They were asking for money or living under the freeway, and I would say, would you like to tell your story? I'm writing a book, recording this. Sometimes they would say, no, I'm not interested, and then I would offer some money. I offered them $25. Then they agreed, but mostly, always actually, they were all very pleased to tell their story, and they felt like they had been heard and listened to, and that the society needed to hear them.
What are some answers that surprised you from these people?
The number of them that were not on drugs or alcohol, some that were physically disabled and some mentally challenged. How many were from Chattanooga natives? I was saddened by some of the stories, like a lady, the ones that were raised in foster care or had been homeless for decades, that this had just become their lifestyle. They're real touching stories. Every one of them, you get to know people behind people you see on the street.
Do you get a sense that any of these people were getting any help from anywhere or even aware of it?
I asked that question explicitly to almost all of them. Some of them had tapped into the resources, mostly the Chat Foundation was just such a huge blessing to some of them. And they'd said, yeah, it was the Chat Foundation. Their social worker got me plugged in, and now I'm on the waiting list for housing. And they were really thankful for that. Others was just mind-boggling how they fall through the cracks. They obviously needed help, would be candidates for help, but were not getting it. So that is a really interesting topic.
You talked about the person that you encountered who inspired you to embark on this project. Talk about a few more people that you met along the way.
Well, there was a lady named Fluffy who was asking for money down at the corner of 20th and where you get on the freeway down there. And she said that her and her husband had moved here from Ohio about a year ago because he had some relatives here, and then something happened and they couldn't stay with the relatives, so they were on the street, and then he left her. He abandoned her, and she said he had beat her, and she was making it on her own. At the end of it, I says, is there anything you would like to say to the people of Chattanooga? Just final words, and just said, I'm glad you are not treating us like animals. It just really hurts to most of us to be looked down upon like we're animals. And then she ended up by saying, I miss my family so much. Very touching stories.
And that final question you asked her, that was your final question to each of the people that you interviewed that we learn about in this book. I'm going to ask you that question. What do you have to tell the people of Chattanooga after this experience and through this book with all the people that you met?
Each of us could be closer to homelessness than we realize. Number one, no one knows who's going to have a brain tumor or an accident or be unemployed next week. It is so important to listen to the stories of other people. It's how we humanize each other. I think every household in Hamilton County needs to experience these stories. In that sense, I really hope and trust that as a writer, my goal as a writer is writers are world changers. I hope that this would maybe stimulate some effect in public policy. One more thing I'll add, I've taken all this video footage and put it into a documentary film with a lot of editing. It's down to a 45-minute film. We'll be showing that probably at Barking Legs sometime here in the next few months and having some panel discussions along with that film.
And we look forward to talking about that when that is set and as we get closer to that. In the meantime, if people want to check out this book for themselves, you self-published, where can people go online?
It's on Amazon. And also locally, it's at the Rev Coffee and Books in Hickson, and hopefully here soon in Winder Binder on Fraser Avenue.
This all comes through Chattown Press. Let's talk about that.
Chattown Press is my own label right now. The label of the book is Chattown Chatta, and I hope to do more interviews with people we need to hear from.
And where can people check that out online?
chattownpress.net.
All right. Mark, thanks so much.
Thank you again. Thanks, WUTC.